Hey, what's up guys? Adam here, and today I'm going to be bringing you a book recommendation video. Now, I haven't done one of these in quite a while. In fact, my last book recommendation video was my 2 financial books that completely changed my life. In fact, I'll link that in the info cards above. So I think it's going to be quite fitting that I call this video 3 property books that have completely changed my life. Now, that is no exaggeration because the books that I'm going to be talking about today are nothing short of fantastic. Now, for those of you that watched my goals video for 2021, as well as my Trading 212 portfolio video, you'll know that I actually have plans to go into property investment within the next couple of years. And part of the reason why I've been able to keep up with my proposed 2 videos per week schedule is because I've been working on that particular business behind the scenes. Now, I won't go into too much detail about that in this video, as I plan to do a more dedicated video talking more about that, so be sure to stay tuned. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get right into this video. Okay, so the first book that we're going to be taking a look at is called Property Investment for Beginners, and it's written by Rob Dix. Now, Rob Dix is one of the co-founders of the Property Hub network and also famously known for the Property Hub podcast, one of the, if not the most popular property podcast available in the UK. Now, not only that, he offers a range of courses, articles, as well as a subscription-based magazine. And of course, above all that, he also runs a very successful property investment company and management business. So I think it's fair to say he knows exactly what he's talking about. So this particular book, Property Investment for Beginners, is exactly what it says on the tin. It really covers most of the surface level information that may entice some people who may have no interest or have no knowledge of property investing. The book seeks to answer the very obvious question, which is why invest in property? Especially when investing in something like the stock market or even bonds seems a lot easier. And Rob's response to this is that property has something called intrinsic value. People will always need a place to live. I know it sounds blindly obvious, but people can survive without having, a new TV or the latest pair of trainers, or even in some cases a car, but they can't really survive without having a place to live. Now, in addition to this, property can also be bought using leverage funds, which is kind of a fancy way of saying you can buy property using someone else's money or using a mortgage. Whereas with the stock market, there isn't really an option available to do that. Now, of course, if you're doing day trading, yes, you can use leverage funds, but it works a lot differently in comparison to how it works with property. And for the most part, if you're looking to do long-term stock investing, you actually need to pay for either the stock or the fund outright. The book also seeks to break down some of the terminology used in property as well. One example is the term loan to value and expressing that as a percentage. So let's say, for example, the value of a property is £100,000 and that requires a 75% loan to value. That would mean that you would need at least £25,000 or 25% of the amount as a deposit before the mortgage or loan company will cover the remaining balance. And that is where leverage comes in. So let's say, for example, we have investor 1 that buys a property for £100,000 and they pay for it all in cash. And then we also have investor 2 that buys a property again for £100,000, but they use a loan to value of 75%. Let's say in 10 years time, both those house prices double. Investor 1 would have a 100% return on investment, while investor 2, after paying back that mortgage or that loan, would have a return on investment of 400%. And that is the power of using leverage over using your full capital within a property investment venture. Now, of course, leverage is definitely a double-edged sword. It does have its drawbacks as well. So for example, if you buy a property using a mortgage and you don't make those mortgage payments, then of course the loan company, the mortgage company, has the right to take that property off you, and then of course you lose that as part of your investment. So just make sure that you bear that in mind. The book also covers a lot more terms such as interest only mortgages, tax issues and incentives, growth and income, goal setting, and much more. Enough for you to decide whether property investment is going to be right for you. And even if you don't plan to go into property investing, some of the terms used in this book are going to be very useful for people who are looking to buy their first home or just residential property in general. So the next book we're going to be taking a look at is The Complete Guide to Property Investment, once again by Rob Dix, How to Survive and Thrive in the New World of Buy-to-Let. And personally, I would actually call this the part 2 of his previous book. So I'd highly recommend that you read Property Investment for Beginners before reading this one, mainly because it's going to assume that you have a vested interest in property investment already. So understandably, this book goes into a lot more of the technical side of property investing, and it does this by breaking it down into three main segments. So segment number one is all about property strategies, understanding the different ways that you can invest in property given your current circumstances and what your end goal is going to be. Your goal is really important here, because without having that goal in place, you'll be unsuccessful in whatever direction you decide to take. So make sure you have your goal already down set. The first approach that Rob suggests is to save hard, take it easy, and retire well. This is probably the more traditional way that people end up buying their investment property, and it tends to probably be the most stable as well. And what they tend to do is they buy one investment property and they'll use the rental income from that property plus any savings that they do have to purchase the next property, and so on and so forth. The advantage of this strategy is that it is quite low risk, and it's going to be great for people who are incredibly time poor or work a really high pressure job. However, it can be really slow to actually build up your portfolio using this method, especially if you're on a lower income or don't have multiple streams of income coming in. So a contrasting approach that Rob suggests is the cash recycling method, also known as BRRR, also known as the buy, refurbish, refinance and rent strategy. This is where you purchase properties that are either below market value and or require some form of refurbishment, so usually a bit more than a lick of paint, and then it's down to you to work out what work is going to be required on that property and see what the new valuation would be. Now, this is quite a popular strategy because it allows you to build your portfolio at a much faster rate. However, it does require you to do a lot more work, a lot more analysis, and of course it does come with its own degree of risk as well, because in some cases the valuation that you expected to get might end up being a lot lower than you expected. And that would mean that you'd have a lot more capital, unfortunately, tied up into the property because you're not able to refinance at your expected valuation. But after that refinance process, you can either decide to continue to rent the property out, or you can flip the property for a high and fast profit. He does mention other strategies as well in this book, but I don't want to go into too much detail on those because this video would end up being quite long. So the second segment of the book goes into the full investment process, with the first step being choosing your ideal investment area. This could either be close by you or further away, and the book goes into the pros and cons of both. Then you need to decide whether you want to favor more for high rental income or high capital growth. Of course, areas will have some degree of both of these, but it really depends on where you want your portfolio to be directed in. Also, things like schools, transport links, and shopping areas are all things that you'll have to consider when it comes to your chosen investment area. So how you plan to raise the funds are also important as well. Are you going to use straight cash? Are you going to use a mortgage, bridging finance, joint ventures, investor funds? Again, the book goes into a lot of detail regarding the pros and cons of each method of funding property, and of course the associated risks of each. And as with any property purchase, it is important that you assess the deal to see whether it stacks up and whether it's going to be worth your while. And the book goes into a lot of detail about this as well. Now, property management is also another area that is covered in this book, and Rob compares the differences between having a self-managed portfolio and managing your portfolio with a letting agent. Now, of course, your location and where you are located is going to depend very heavily on this. So if you're close by your properties, then of course, maybe you'll be more inclined to self-manage it yourself, but it's also going to decide on how big your portfolio is as well. Now, if you're somewhere in a remote location and your property portfolio is in a completely different location, then it may be best suited that you actually go with a property management company. So the book does a really great job of breaking those two areas down. The final segment actually goes into more of the logistical side of property investing, such as how to best grow your existing portfolio, as well as how to systemize a property investment business, and whether it's best to purchase in a limited company or as an individual. There is also a great section on the property life cycle, something that all investors in property should be privy to. So be sure to read up on that segment because it gives you a really good breakdown of how property moves within the property life cycle. Now, this is just a sample of the information that can be found in this book, so it's definitely worth giving it a full read so you can get the full scope of information. So the third book we're going to be taking a look at is Property Magic by Simon Zutshi. Now, before I even get into the contents of the book, the great thing about it is that Simon comes out with a new revision of the book anytime there is any major legislation changes or any major governmental changes that will affect the property market. So you can be rest assured that any copy that you receive at a certain time will be the most up-to-date version, and all the content within it will still remain relevant for your current time. Now, Simon also runs the Property Investors Network, also known as PIN, which is a huge property training and networking organization that have several meetups throughout the year, or in more recent times, several webinars throughout the year. And he also runs the Property Mastermind course and has also been investing in property since 1995. So again, he definitely knows what he's talking about. So Property Magic, like the two previous books, go into a lot more detail about why you should invest in property. However, its primary focus is on the principles of investing in property, and he breaks it down into 5 key principles that he feels are a must. The first of which is probably one that he stresses the most, and that is to buy property from motivated sellers. Now, a motivated seller is someone who is looking to sell their property in a really short space of time. They may be going through a divorce, they may be at risk of losing their dream home, or they may be stuck in a chain, or they may even be in negative equity, or they may have inherited the property and just really looking to just get it off their hands. Whatever the reason may be, it allows you to have some room in there for negotiation to get the property below market value. But one thing that Simon does state is that you must approach the situation in an ethical perspective, and it must be a win-win situation for both the investor and the seller. In other words, the vendor should be able to walk away from the deal not being worse off than they previously were. Another key principle that he focuses on is buying property in an area with strong rental demand, giving you positive cash flow. His argument being is that there is no point investing in an area if there's no rental demand or if there are no amenities that are going to be close by. In addition to this, he also says that it's important to make sure the deal actually stacks up, because the last thing you want is negative cash flow coming in. Now, what isn't mentioned in a lot of property books is actually how to find these motivated sellers or to get property for below market value. Surprisingly, a lot of the methods that he actually talks about in the book would be considered quite old-fashioned when it comes to marketing in today's perspective. So some of the suggestions that he comes up with is things like leaflet drops, advertising in your local newspaper, or a mass drop of letters in a particular area where people may be looking to sell. Another suggestion that he makes is that look around your local area for buildings that may look abandoned, broken windows, overgrown gardens, or letters piling out of the porch. Now, these are usually telltale signs of vacant properties, and these are usually strategies carried out by deal sources. Now, I mentioned the term deal sources in my How to Invest £1,000 video. I'll leave that in the info card above so you can find out exactly what deal sources do. Now, finally, Simon stresses the importance of building a power team, a strong team of builders, brokers, solicitors, tradespeople, deal sources, a property management company, as well as having a virtual assistant to carry out some of the smaller operational tasks. Personally, I think trying to manage every single aspect of property on your own is going to be next to impossible. So it's really good that Simon mentions the importance of building a strong power team. So guys, that has been my video on 3 property books that I highly recommend. They've completely changed my prospect and my outlook on property investing. I actually highly recommend that you also read these books in the order that I've presented them within this video, because it kind of starts on more of a foundational level and builds from there. So I highly recommend reading these books. I'll leave them in the description down below for you to check out. So guys, if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Smash the like button down below. If you want to see more videos like this where we talk about personal finance, investing, and documenting my journey to financial freedom and wealth building, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below and make sure you hit the notification bell so you get the alerts when we upload new videos to this channel. Anyway guys, it's been Adam here. Thank you for watching. Take care, and of course, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.